Okay, let's have a little bit of a clarifying session and update on things. Not that any of you care or should care, but here we are. I don't even know if I'm going to post this. I just think that I need to have a conversation with someone, even if that someone is a Canon camera. Quite a bit has changed for me in the past, I would say 9 or so months. And it's importantly changed in a way that I was not expecting. It's really had a lot to do with my decision to come off of a medication that I have been on for most of my adult life. Long story short, this medication was essential for me to exist in sort of a very high pressure situation, such as university, such as working in a city, whereas now I have relocated and I'm living in basically a very rural area of the UK in a farmhouse, and my situation and circumstances are very calm, very still. And because of that, I have not found that I have needed this medication in order to function as a human being. Instead, I'm able to go hiking in the morning in order to get some clarity and perspective. I also have the luxury of the job that I have, which is very much sort of self-determined by me. So that medication hasn't been integral and a staple of my day-to-day existence. Weaning myself off that medication has been very difficult. It was a personal choice. It was not the choice of the doctors that I'd consulted, but it has unexpectedly been quite successful so far. And it has taken me over a year and 9 months. But I'd say that the 9 months have been the crucial time. The most recent 9 months have been the most crucial time in terms of the transition period from being very reliant on these pills to suddenly not taking them at all. And I have been completely free of this medication for about 3 months now, just under 3 months. And I think the unexpected thing of being off these medications is that I have discovered that I have a sex drive. And you know what? There's actually quite a lot about this that I'm not happy about. I'm not happy that I have a sex drive. It's causing me great inconvenience. I have to go to the gym a lot more frequently than I would like in order to just let out steam. I also have felt sort of like an animal on heat in ways that I've never felt before. Suddenly my boobs have sensation. I am sort of very on edge. I think if you touch me, you might get a bit electrocuted at times. But because of that, people have started looking a lot more appealing to me in ways that they have not ever looked to me. People have not necessarily, for me, been something that I pursue because I want to have intercourse with them. I pursue them because I want a very intellectual connection with them, because I want to find a companion for life. And that is still most definitely the priority of all my pursuits and endeavors in this absolute travesty that we call the current dating market. But it is nonetheless something that I see now being coupled with my interest in actually touching somebody and actually being physically intimate with somebody in a way that I have never felt before. And it's very opportune that something like the sponsor of today's video, Beducated, thank you so much to Beducated for sponsoring this video, has actually come into my life, because it was really so serendipitous, I think, that I actually have had this app, this sex ed app, rather than resorting to or going to adult content in order to try and figure things out in terms of what I like, what arouses me, etc. But halt, just before we get into the rest of this video of me pouring my heart out to you, I'd just like to give a huge thank you to today's video sponsor, Beducated. It's the season of love, and I'm so happy to be partnering with Beducated during a time of year that I typically do not enjoy. As you know, I am perpetually alone, and Valentine's Day is associated with that time of year where I feel like I'm ugly, that life sucks, where my self-confidence is at an all-time low. So I'm delighted to be partnering with Beducated again, because this is the first Valentine season where I feel that being alone or being single is not actually an awful thing. And I'll tell you exactly why. Beducated is the #1 online platform for everything you want and need for your sexual health and happiness. The app is quite literally the sex ed you wish you had, but because of the way our culture is when it comes to the vulnerabilities, realities, and awkwardness of sex, never had. Beducated promotes shame-free, educational, and safe sex education for all genders, sexualities, and relationship types. The underlying philosophy of the app is that sexual happiness is trainable. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing without time, patience, and a willingness to learn and try that you can't discover about your sexual pleasure and your sexual well-being. And you know, as I've grown up, I've come to realize that sex, that is real sex, is such a taboo thing. And so many of us at different points in our lives are either dissatisfied, or we believe that because of the adult content that we've consumed or that we know of, we should just know what to do when it comes to being incredibly vulnerable with someone, including ourselves personally. I'll admit I was skeptical when I first tried Beducated because I'm one of those people who just naturally freaks out about her sexuality. But I have quite literally discovered a part of myself that I didn't know existed, let alone believed could possibly exist. And I've discovered that good and real pleasure is something that I can actually have and needn't be so ashamed of or skeptical of. With over 100 courses curated beautifully and with so much care and effort by sexologists, consultants, sex therapists, dominatrix, dating and relationship coaches, kink coaches, and psychotherapists, there is definitely something for everybody, regardless of sexual orientation, whether you're exploring or whether you're as vanilla as I am. Orgasm activist and sex tech consultant Venus O'Hara's course on sex toys has really transformed things for me. And just like the world of sex in general, the world of sex toys is pretty riddled in shame and guilt, as well as just a very daunting endeavor and thing to come across. I can tell you, I never thought I'd be one of those people who was actually encouraged to buy a sex toy, but Venus O'Hara, as I said, transformed things for me. And here I am, and for the better. And this course really exemplified everything I love about Beducated, everything that I've really seen with all the courses that I've been taking and that I've took. Everything specific to you and your sexual wellness journey are explored in detail. But anyway, why not make this Valentine's Day or night more intimate, more sexy, more romantic, and just overall more fun than the last one with one of Beducated's over 100 courses. 9 out of 10 users say that Beducated has improved their overall sexual happiness. And one of the best parts is that you can use the app on any device, on your smartphone, your smart TV, your iPad, or your desktop. And Beducated is offering you a fantastic deal with me this season. Not only do you get a 1-day free trial to explore everything the app has to offer with absolutely no strings attached, you will get an amazing 50% off your subscription by using my code Kidology. And this is a truly phenomenal deal, especially when you consider that the over 100 courses on Beducated are valued at over $15,000 US. And on top of all that incentive, Beducated is completely risk-free. If you use my code Kidology, you will have a 14-day money-back guarantee. Now remember, that's discount code Kidology using my link down in the description box and as a pinned comment to get 50% off your yearly subscription. Thank you so much to Beducated for sponsoring this video, and on a personal level for helping me to understand intimacy and my sexuality in ways that I would never have imagined possible. And now I know that I actually do have something really fun to do on Valentine's Day. And with that being said, let's get back to the video. And I found myself going onto Reddit forums. And Reddit forums I usually am always on, just looking at things, looking for ideas for content, understanding what people are thinking, what they are saying, especially when it comes to dating, relationships, and sex. I usually go onto Reddit as an analyst. I look to analyze things. I'm not invested in anything. My heart isn't in it insofar as I'm actually seeking out advice or recommendations. But as of late, I have found myself sort of stepping over the line in the way of actually really wanting to call out for help, really sort of resonating with a lot of things that I've seen people saying on particular subreddits. And I think all of this sort of represents a bit of a transition in my life that I recognize from reading a lot of these subreddits, that people are really going through it. I think I'm coming to the realization that I am a lesbian. Now, I say this not as a form of coming out, because I'm not really interested in that. But I say this because it's really not something that I'm terribly happy about. And I know that this is controversial, mainly because coming out or saying things like this or expressing your sexuality is meant to be an affirmative thing. It's meant to be something that is very positive. And the idea that a lot of people unfortunately associate with somebody saying, I'm X, Y, and Z, and I'm disappointed, is that they think that you're saying it about them, or you're saying it about the whole concept of X, Y, and Z. So I just like to preface this by saying that me saying that I'm not happy with this realization that I am a lesbian is not me saying that that is a bad thing in and of itself. It is not me saying anything about you and your journey or your affirmative connotations with being whatever sexuality you are. This is a very personal thing to me, and I'm not here to represent anyone, to represent any community or what have you. So just keep that in mind, please, before you cancel me for saying this. And I think this is something that I've realized as a consequence of feeling far more sexual, of having a sex drive again, or for the first time, in fact. I've always found myself able to appreciate the aesthetics or the sort of physical features of men, of women, of people in general, but I've never necessarily found myself drawn to them so much that I want to touch them and be with them, which is something that I am now experiencing when it comes to my sexuality. And I found that that attraction, that sexual attraction, is exclusively directed toward and channeled toward women. And I want to talk about why I'm disappointed about this, because this is something that I think a lot of people feel when it comes to their sexuality, no matter what sexuality it is. I think a lot of people feel a sort of disappointment, not because they're homophobic, not because they're transphobic, not because they're heterophobic or whatever phobia you may associate yourself with or you may associate somebody else with. I think that it's just because of the realities of that experience for you and how that may pan out for you. And it's perfectly valid to feel that way, even though we do live in a time where saying such things makes people think that you are a terrible person or that you are destroying the integrity of some community or whatnot. I think what I've realized and why I am so disappointed is because of how differently I'm treated by women relative to how I'm treated by men. And this is because of very natural things. Women are just naturally far more pickier, and for very understandable and for very important reasons. It makes absolute sense. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being picky and choosy. I actually think that men need to be far more picky and far more choosy when it comes to who they form relationships with and connections with. I think we'd all save ourselves a lot of heartbreak in that regard. But I think what I'm discovering, and something that I have known for a long time just generally as somebody who knew that I was attracted to the personalities at least of men and women, is that suddenly I've gone from being somewhat relatively attractive to at least a reasonable cohort of men who I've predominantly been dating like throughout my life, to now suddenly being at the bottom of the food chain. Let's just say that the realities of the matter, even though no lesbian would want to admit this and no lesbian community or group or microcosmic community within the broader lesbian community would like to admit it, Black women who look like me are sort of at the bottom of the food chain. And this, of course, is speaking about sort of lesbians in the Western world. And this is something that I'm going to have to come to terms with, that I have been coming to terms with and just realizing as I've started trying to date, trying to form connections with people, trying to understand my sexuality. It is something that I've had to come to terms with and realize. And I think that this does mean that for me, the prospect of finding somebody and being intimate with somebody is going to take a very long time. I doubt that I will be in a relationship with a woman anytime soon. I give it a decade at the least at this point. And this is something that I see quite a bit of. I see a lot of people being very disappointed in romance and in forming connections with people right now. And for, I would say, very understandable and personal reasons. I actually discussed this in a video that will either already be out or is coming out on the dating market right now and what a mess it is, so I won't go into too much detail here. But I think a lot of the narrative surrounding coming out and being authentically you is associated with this very flowery imagery and language and notions that suddenly you're going to be loved, you're going to be with the people who you love, who you want to be with, that you're going to be in this amazing community of very progressive, very liberal-minded, very open-minded, very accepting people. And the reality of it is really not the case. The reality, what I'm seeing more and more so, is a reality of true loneliness and feeling alone, a lot of yearning, a lot of confusion, a lot of a sense of betrayal that one is not finding the people who one believes that they should be with or that they ought to be able to find. And I think in being alone, it sort of makes you feel bad and sad about your sexuality, about your sexual orientation. It makes you feel like, well, I'm going to be alone, so why am I like this? And I think this is something that I'm feeling. I thought that with the return of my sex drive, or the discovery, as it were, of my sex drive, I would be meeting people and I would no longer be a quote-unquote femcel, that I would have sex again. But that is not the case, and that is proving itself not to be the case. And I know I always say this because this is actually what I do believe when I talk about things on this channel, but I do think we should be able to talk about these things honestly without feeling that we are burdened with the responsibility of a whole community and of people as either being representatives of the good facets of said community, or just a representative that it is okay to be X, Y, and Z way. Because of course it is absolutely okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong, nothing shameful in being a lesbian and being whatever you are. But that doesn't mean that it can't be and isn't disappointing for many. And I don't think we should deny those feelings to people who are not fortunate enough or are not able to find kinship, to find community, to find love within their sexuality or their sexual orientation. And I think it should be okay to feel this way. I, for instance, at least by the standards of lesbians who tend to be very, very progressive and very far to the left of the political spectrum, I would probably be considered conservative, or at least socially conservative, and not in like a good way, but in sort of a rather pejorative way. And so for that reason, I already don't necessarily feel at home exactly. I'm also, as I would say, I'm quite vanilla in appearance, in my sort of ideas of how I want to live and exist in the world, of my particular social mores that I subscribe to personally. And I think because of that, I do find it very difficult, and I have always found it quite difficult to befriend or associate with people who are of my age group and of my generation. 90% of my friends are boomers or Gen Xers, and I have found myself also, in terms of my attraction, just attracted to older people for that reason and for other reasons as well, which we'll get into in another video, but you know, you'll have to subscribe to see that. And so with all of these things, I found myself not exactly happy. I found myself discovering something about myself. I've found myself discovering something very important and very crucial. But I'd say that at this point in my life, that is all it is. It's cruciality. It's the crucial things that I'm finding out. There's no happiness or anticipation, positive anticipation in that discovery, in these discoveries about myself. And I don't know why I'm making this video. As I said, I do not know if I'm going to actually put this out onto the channel. If I do, then I'm probably in quite a desperate place. But I guess I'm making this video just to find out if there's anybody else out there, if anybody else feels this way. And I reckon that there are a lot of people who do feel this way. I don't think that this is a thing that I just feel, this sense of finding out your sexuality or accepting your sexuality and being disappointed by it. I'm sure there's heterosexual men and women who are like, oh God. I'm sure there's trans people out there who are like, oh God, you know. So I think that we should just accept a bit more of this feeling of, why me? This ruins all my plans for the future. Not that I had any plans for the future, but just speaking generically, this ruins, I guess, the image and the life that I thought I was going to have. And now I feel a bit lost. I feel incredibly lonely. I feel like I'm sitting at the bottom of the parapet and that there's no way to get up. There's no Clarice looking over saying that she's going to save me, and me saying, fuck you, bitch, save me. So yes, I think that's how I'm feeling. But anyway, as I said, I'm just putting this out there just to see if there's anybody else, any late bloomer lesbians feeling a bit lost, feeling a bit alone, anybody really feeling kind of, I guess, disenchanted with their romantic future and with, I guess, the people, I wouldn't say the people that they're attracted to, but the realization of being attracted to particular people, but realizing that it's going to be either greatly harder than you thought it was going to be happily in a relationship with somebody, or that you're just afraid, or you just feel sort of alone. Yeah, I guess just alone. So anyway, I don't really know what this video is. This is just me rambling about myself and life. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to Beducated for sponsoring this video. I really do appreciate it, and I really do think that you should check them out. They are absolutely phenomenal. As I said, Beducated has helped me with a lot right now, so I do thank them. And of course, as I said, thank you so much for watching and for supporting this channel. Please be respectful and understanding in the comments. I know somebody's going to probably try and cancel me for this, but oh well. We live and we learn and we grow and we move on. I will see all of you very, very soon in the next one.